Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
That has got to be the most awful sound on the planet. Hi, my name is Neil Matthews. I want to tell you about a new app that I've discovered. It's called Low Key Listening. Now, let me tell you how this works. First off, you want to go download the app right now from your Google Play Store or your Apple App Store. What you're going to do is you're going to set up a free account. From there, you're going to find somebody who's available to listen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A real live human being. Now, if you don't feel like talking to them, that's okay. You can actually send voice notes to them. You can text the person. Here's the best part. Not only are they anonymous, you're anonymous as well. It's called Low Key Listening. And let me tell you, if you're overwhelmed, if you're feeling just a little down, or maybe you have a victory that you want to share, Low Key Listening is there for you. I've used it myself personally, and let me tell you, it is one of the most amazing apps that is out there right now. Go check it out. Low Key Listening, again, available at your phone's app store right now. Set up a free account, try it out for yourself, see if Low Key Listening can help you when you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe you just need a friend to talk to. Again, Low Key Listening. Check it out now.
They say opportunity knocks, but what if it's not opportunity? What if it's something or someone else? A familiar voice from the past, a chance you've been waiting for, a mistake you thought you left behind, or maybe something far bigger than you imagined. Some doors were open without hesitation, others will cautiously peek through, and some we wish had never answered. This season on Other People's Shoes, host Neil Matthews is asking one question. Who's there? Will you answer? Will you hesitate? Step inside season 22 of Other People's Shoes, where every knock holds a story, and every door leads to a choice. Now here's your host, Neil Matthews.
Welcome into Other People's Shoes. As you know, I am your host, Neil Matthews. Thank you so much for joining me today. Man, I hope next season we have better music, because every time I hear that, I get a little creeped out. I get a little scared. Gotta get the MyPillow blanket. They have those, by the way, the MyPillow blankets. Yeah, I have one just in the background there. So if you need something to cuddle with today, as we dive into this story, you may need one. Who knows who's at our front door today? Maybe that's what has me excited every day, is who will be at my front door. Y'all get Amazon packages. You get those at your house. I hope some of you get them maybe, and you don't ever see the Amazon guy. Well, recently, it was on a Thursday, I can tell you exactly, because I was bringing back the trash cans from the street, because where we live actually on a street, and there was an Amazon dude just chilling out in the driveway. I don't know what he was doing. I kind of poked my head in, trying to be a good neighbor, and I was like, hey man, bro, you good? I dropped the bro on him, and he's like, yeah man, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I grabbed the other trash can, because I can't do them both at once. I know there's some TikToks out there where you can like do the lid and the thing, and you can like piggyback them. This is getting somewhere, I promise. In that process, I go back to the street, and he's still sitting there. And I was like, hey man, this is my driveway, and you're like blocking it now. And he got mad. He got real mad. He's like, well, I'm waiting on my dispatcher. I was like, well, cool. This is my driveway. This isn't Tom Modette and Motel 6. This isn't just some place you can hang out. It's my driveway. And he got mad about it. I bring all that about because I don't see a lot of people come to my front door. And so when they do, maybe help me. Do I need to be nicer to the Amazon guy? He is bringing my Amazon packages. So one guy that is bringing some excitement today from the Atlanta area, my new friend, Dave. Dave, how are you today? And should I have been nicer to the Amazon guy in your mind, Dave?
Oh, no, I completely agree with you. I got a 100-foot driveway. They live at the end of mine. It drives me crazy.
That's what I was trying to tell my wife. I was like, listen, what if I needed to go someplace in a hurry and I had to go around him? And she was like, he was just sitting there. What does it matter to you that he was just sitting there? I'm like, because our driveway, I know this comes as a shock to some, it's not a parking spot. What do you do? What do you do? And so he did take off, and he went about, 200 yards or so, 300 yards down the way, and pulled over. No flashers, by the way. No, emergency flashers. Just pulled over, just side of the road, pulled over. I was like, man, you should at least have your flashers on, I think, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a cop.
I would think.
Well, Dave, help us with this. That's not why you're here, is to tell me if I should kick the Amazon guy or not out. I'm sure you have other cooler stuff we could talk about, and we will. So, Dave, help me with this. What shoe size are you? Do you know that by chance? There are some guys that I've met that don't know that.
Yeah, I know my shoe size. I'm able to order Amazon. It's a 9.
Sweet. We love that. So help me with this. Is there a style or brand of shoe that you like to wear maybe more than most?
For me, Skechers. There's a particular reason why. We'll find out later.
All right. I will reserve my shoe judgment then. And
okay.
court is now in session. I do judge people for wearing Skechers.
Well, I wear cowboy boots too. I don't know if that helps.
Okay, I can get around that. Yeah. Yes. But you love Skechers over cowboy boots?
No. It's all about the ability to tie shoes.
They have Crocs too. You don't have to tie those.
Yeah. I got one pair of Crocs. My wife won't let me get more.
They're comfier than people think they are. That's all I'm
Well,
going
they
to
are.
say.
They are, and they last forever.
I was a Croc rock throwing person, and then North Carolina partnered with Crocs, and they slapped an NC logo on the Crocs, and I was like, I need those. And now I just wear them in between the house and the studio. They're the studio shoes, as I call them.
They work.
They do work. In a pinch, they do work. I actually bought them too big and had them shrunk down. So anyway, so that can happen too. They can shrink down.
Okay.
Dave, help me with this. When you heard about, and I know we pitched it to you, this idea of someone at your front door, the idea of maybe somebody knocking at your front door or an opportunity or a moment, something coming to your front door. I think we even call it in some of our pitching material, I think we called it the knock on life's front door, which I really liked, the knock on life's front door. What comes to mind for you, and how does that relate to your story?
One of the most recent knocks on my front door is what has got me sitting here today. I had a life event that we are going to get into about 11 years ago, almost 12 years ago. The knock at my front door, it was a near-death experience. So the knock at my front door recently was, my story has value to people out there. As I started to tell it to individuals, I realized after 10 years, my story has value and it has interest. So the knock at my front door was to open that door and start sharing my story to not only inspire others, educate others on the dangers of what happened to me. I would say that's the most recent knock at my front door.
You know, it's interesting you bring that about because I think everyone has a story. I think everyone's story even has value in their story. I think when we hear that story, it should create a shift in our perspective. And that's what I love so much about what I get to do each and every week is this idea of I get to be in your shoes, metaphorically. Like I can never be in the Skechers or the other shoes that we've had on in the past. For a split moment, I can at least try to walk where you've walked and try to hear what you've experienced and try to say, wow, if I was in that spot, what would I do? How would I react? And that's my goal each and every week is to get somebody to say, what would I have done in that moment? If I would have chose A, or would I have chose B, or would I have maybe even chose Z? The idea that somehow in our mind we think, well, what happened to me needs to just stay with me. It needs to just be a secret. It needs to, and not in a negative way as a secret goes, maybe sometimes. And the ability to say, no, there's power in this and people can learn from it. Sometimes we're afraid to share because we're like, is anyone going to care? Hi. Is this thing on?
And that was one of the things for me for several years. I was like, I've got a cool story. I've got a neat story. It really isn't anything that anybody's going to take to heart or be interested in. And then I had the opportunity to share it to new drivers, as a matter of fact, because I teach driver's ed. And when I watched the looks on their faces and the looks on their parents' faces, I started to realize that maybe my story does have value. You just don't think of yourself and your story as being important until somebody else shares with you that it is.
I got to say, thanks for teaching kids how to drive so parents don't have to. My daughter was in driver's ed here in Oregon, and I was so grateful. Still am, still so grateful for that individual that got behind the wheel with my daughter because I was like, man, there's just some things parents should teach, and there's other things they should let trained professionals do. So thank you for that.
I get that a lot. I get a lot of parents that go, oh, thank God I didn't have to do it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean it. I'm like, I just want to hug you right now, man. I didn't even know that about you.
So I teach driver's ed now, and I teach people to ride motorcycles for Harley Davidson Motor Company.
That's two great things in my mind. I don't have a motorcycle, and I feel like I'm maybe not a dude if I don't have one.
It's not for everybody, and that's perfectly acceptable.
Can I get a Vespa scooter and still be like in the cool kids Harley Davidson club?
Yeah, you can get a Vespa scooter, and while you can't be in the Harley club, we'll allow you to come along for the ride. We'll pick on you a little bit, though.
Item in the picture where you look at it and you're like, that item doesn't fit. Well,
there you go.
Well, Dave, help us with this. You talked about a little bit, teased us a little bit of your story. And again, sharing it with those driver's ed students and the parents. Man, maybe I do have something here. Maybe I do have something powerful that could change, impact, course correct, in a lot of respects, somebody's course that they're on, to at least cause them to pause and think, man, there's something here that I need to learn from. I think we all are on the journey to learn. We should be. I don't know anybody that has it all figured out and has learned everything they can.
I definitely don't. You can count me in that camp.
Well, good. Help us with this. What about this story for you do you think others need to hear that they can really learn from?
So I was a police officer in the metro Atlanta area for about 18 years. And I was a police motorcycle officer, a fatality accident investigator, and a traffic enforcement cop. You know, the ones that nobody likes, the guys who pull you over for speeding. That was me. Specifically with relation to the police motorcycle officer, a lot of people don't realize it's the most dangerous job in police work. And then I did the most dangerous job that police motor officers do, which is escort funerals. In 2014, I had finished doing a funeral escort and I was headed home on my police motorcycle. A individual who was texting and driving on the interstate. I was in backed up traffic doing about 30 miles an hour, and they rear-ended me on the motorcycle. And at impact speed, they were doing 75 miles an hour, at which point I was thrown back onto the hood of their car. They carried me on the hood of their car for another 500 feet before they hit another car, which catapulted me into the air over the top of a pickup truck, and I landed in the concrete. The rest of the story is I was life-flighted to an emergency hospital where I had, over the course of a weekend, 5 life-saving surgeries to put me back together. I had they call a shattered open book pelvis, several fractured vertebrae, and a torn bladder. And through the course of that, I got what's called a septic infection. My body shut down from making blood. They put me into a medically induced coma. I spent 5 weeks in intensive care, 3 of that in a coma, 3 weeks of that in a coma, and then 10 days in an acute rehab center and almost 2 months in nursing homes, recovering, learning to walk again, learning to function again. And at one point, while I was in the coma, my family was gathered together and his vital signs are as low as they can go. He's not going to survive. Say your goodbyes. But I did survive, and here I am, the highlight of the story, and it was all because of a texting driver. So I was not supposed to live. God apparently has other plans for me because he saved my life. And the great doctors and medical staff also.
How do you forgive somebody for doing that act? I don't think there's a person alive that would hear the sound of my voice and your voice that probably, on some level, has not sent a text while they're driving, or at least looked at their
Correct.
phone. In Oregon, you got to be hands-free. You have to be.
It is also now illegal here in Georgia. You got to be hands-free. But at the time, it was not. At that time, it was not. That was something fairly new. There were several states that were at that time, but Georgia was not. So she actually wasn't committing an offense. The individual was driving so badly before she hit me that people were calling 911, alerting 911 to her driving condition. That's how badly she was texting. And when I do what I do now, the driver's ed and teaching people to ride motorcycles, I go over the text. It is quickly, I believe statistics back this up, it is becoming the most deadly thing people do on the road, even surpassing possibly DUI.
That's insane that texting and driving or using your phone while driving, I mean, one and the same in my mind, are on now in your mind. And maybe there's others that would echo this, and statistics are now backing this up, that it's on the same level as a DUI? Is it?
Yeah, I forget. I may be misquoting this exactly, but I believe texting and driving is, or using your cell phone not hands-free, is the equivalent of being a .10 drunk.
Wow.
And I might be wrong on the .10, but I'm pretty close.
Regardless, there's still an impairment.
Oh, yes. Very much so.
And that's what you're getting after. Basically impaired, or to the level of impairment, pick up their phone and they have to see, who's texting them. I drive a 2018 Corolla. I know some people are like, wow, Neil, you drive a Corolla. That doesn't seem very manly. I don't care. I drive a Corolla. It's nice. It has good gas mileage. On my Corolla, it has this really cool thing. When a text message pops up, it says you have a text message, and then I just touch a button and it says read, and it reads the message to me. It's pretty cool.
That's one of the advantages of newer cars, is that you have that talk to text, that hands-free feature. When you have that phone in your hand, you're taking all of your senses off of the road, your eyes, your ears, all of it off of the road for 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. And if you stop and think that at 60 miles an hour, we travel 88 feet every 1 second, that's a long way to go at 60 miles an hour with your eyes completely off the road.
Okay, so according to Google, it is a Class B or Class A violation. Potential fines are upwards of $1,000 to $2,000. That's here in Oregon.
Oof.
Can actually be a Class B misdemeanor and potential jail time and fines. The first offense is $260 $60, which is more depending on if what happens leads to a crash or an incident. So that's here in Oregon. I only did Oregon.
Yeah.
That's what affects me.
I don't know the actual fines here because now I'm out of law enforcement. I can tell you for sure Oregon is much more serious about it than Georgia is.
That's sad. It should be nationwide. It shouldn't be a state thing, in my mind.
Yeah, I can agree with you on principle, but not, unfortunately, not on practice because of the structure of our law.
Fair enough. How do you forgive the individual that hit you? Or do you?
My wife now, who was my girlfriend at the time of the incident, after I got out of the hospital, they held her tickets, they held her citations until after I got out of the hospital, until after I recovered for multiple reasons. One, if I had passed, she'd have been charged with something else. And two, the prosecutor wanted my input, which I thank him for. We didn't agree in the end, but my wife wanted me to go to court and confront her on her court day and show her what she'd done. And I refused. Part of the reason was I have all the paperwork in a box. I have the accident reconstruction. I have all the documents in a box in my attic. I don't even know this woman's name. And here's the way I put it. I have been given a new lease on life. As long as I don't know who she is, I can't hate her for it. And that's horrible to say on its face. Literally what she did that day was she took from me everything that I loved at that time in my life. So the way you, in my opinion, forgive someone is you move on and you make better with what you have left or what you've been given to continue. And you just move on.
Yeah, but how do you move on with the medical bills? How do you move on with the legal stuff? How do you move on with all of that? As a cop, I respectfully say this, by the way, thank you for your service of being a police officer. I really
thank you.
I want to honor that as well. In that regard, how do you just put it in a box, put it in an attic, and you're done with it? Like, one, I would want to know the name. How long did it take you to get to the point where you could set it aside?
A long time. And there are still times, even today, I miss my career. I loved what I did. I loved being a police motorcycle officer. I have now channeled that love and that energy in other directions. To this day, I still wake up upset about what happened. So you don't completely ever put it aside. If you dwell on it and focus on it, why ruin my own life and waste the new lease on life I've been given? Why do that? I'm only hurting myself at this point. I can't do anything to her. Justice for what it was has been served, whether I think it was appropriate justice or not. Unfortunately, sometimes it's one of the downfalls of our system. To dwell on it and not move on would be detriment to me. If I saw her today or I knew who she was and I met her face to face, yeah, would I probably still give her a piece of my mind? Probably.
I don't think anyone will fault you for that.
No, I've made the comment several times. As you find out what had happened to me and what I went through and what still I deal with every day, probably more than anybody most people know, had the perfect excuse in life to crawl into a bottle. Instead, the grass is under my feet. I still am able to ride motorcycles and I love what I do now. Not as much as I loved what I did then.
This accident almost took your life, almost took your way of life, your income. Mm-hmm. You're no longer a cop.
Correct.
You weren't able to go back to that occupation.
No, I was not. I tried for a long time.
So she almost took your life. She took your job.
Mm-hmm.
She probably took a lot of your financial resources. Again, medical stuff, insurance can only go so far. I mean, I know that.
I was fortunate at the time that all those medical bills were covered at the time. Now, I'm on other insurance now, and I have ongoing medical conditions to this day that I regularly have to deal with. Fortunately, aside from deductibles, it's all been covered by medical insurances. I'm fortunate in that respect. So that was lucky. The medical bills were in the million. They were in the million.
Yeah, I would imagine they would be. There's still the trauma to your body, though.
Yes, there is. I will pay for that for the rest of my life. I will suffer with that. I shouldn't say pay for it, but I will suffer with that for the rest of my life.
In a sense, you're paying for it. You're paying for somebody else's mistake.
Correct.
And that's the part that I struggle with is how as an individual do you not think to yourself what they have caused, what they have done in that split second moment? Was it worth it? That would be my one question I would ask this individual. Was the text, was the song choice, whatever you were doing that was so distracting, was it worth it?
Obviously, it wasn't worth it. I hope she learned from it. And that's why I do what I do today. I want to point out to other people, is it worth it? When I have spoken to the kids that I talk to, I have a slide presentation that goes along with this. And when they see the pictures and when they see the results and they couple it with what I'm telling them, the stunned look on their faces, I hope they carry it with them. And I've spoken to a lot of the parents too. A lot of the parents have come to see it and the stunned look on their faces. I hope they go and they carry it with it. And the next time they go to pick up that phone, they think about that. Will I say I was lucky? No, I wasn't lucky in every respect that I'm still alive, I am lucky. It was a mathematical impossibility. It was a medical and mathematical impossibility that I should have survived.
Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to that scene, somehow transport yourself out of that moment, and you could be the responding officer, I would imagine somebody responded to the scene much like you've responded to multiple scenes like that in your career when you had it and all those things. You know, kind of the standard procedure of, okay, this is what I do, and the step-by-step process of what you would do at that scene. Is there any part of you that maybe wants to go there and be there and see it firsthand, even though you're on the ground and maybe seeing yourself? That I don't know if you're following the space-time continuum of it all.
I am kind of following what you're saying. Would I want to go see that scene as an outside, as the responding officer?
Yes.
And see, no, I would not.
How come?
There's a couple of reasons why. Number one, I was fortunate or unfortunate. You can look at it in different ways. I was fully conscious and awake until I got to the hospital. I was fully conscious and awake for those officers showing up. I was fully aware for those officers showing up. Now, I will say, strangely enough, your body does weird things when it gets in extreme trauma. From the second that she hit me to the second that I landed on the ground, I tell everybody everything was in slow motion, like the movie The Matrix. I knew that I was tumbling. I didn't know where I was tumbling. In hindsight, now I know I was on the hood of her car. And then when I hit the ground, everything went back to normal speed. And I heard everybody showing up, and I heard everybody responding, and I heard the commotion around me. I heard everything that was being done. So I was awake for all of it. I was loaded into the Life Flight helicopter. And finally, when the helicopter landed at the hospital and they started wheeling me to my first operation, that's when I finally passed out. So I was there for all of it. No, I would not want to be there as the responding officer. If you could take a drone picture and film everything that happened to me, no, I wouldn't want to watch it. Sometimes still to this day, I wake up in the middle of the night after dreaming and reliving that experience. So I guess in a sense, you could say I might have PTSD. I don't know.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, I haven't been officially diagnosed with it. I hold on pretty good.
Take us to that moment when you're going through all the surgeries. Again, you yourself just said you passed out. How severe did you think it was going to be?
I knew what had happened. I knew I'd been hit. Immediately, there was a guy that rushed up to me and he said, look, I'm an off-duty EMT. I saw it. I've already called 911. People are on their way. And I reached up to my uniform pocket because I always carried my cell phone in my uniform pocket at the time. My phone wasn't there. First thing I said to the guy, this is how a cop thinks, is she still here? In other words, did she take off or did she stay? I wanted to know if she'd taken off. That was my first concern. Oddly enough, at that moment, it's amazing what adrenaline does to you. Oddly, at that moment, I was feeling absolutely no pain. So I reached up to my pocket. I noticed it wasn't there. I asked the guy, where's my cell phone? That's not important, right? I said, no, get me my cell phone. Find my cell phone. So he did. He found my cell phone. I gave him the code. He unlocked it. And I called, at the time, my best friend because I didn't want to call my girlfriend because I knew if she's heard all the sirens approaching, she'd freak out. So I called my best friend. I said, look, this is what has happened. Calmly, talk to him. I said, this is what has happened. I said, so in my brain somewhere, I said, I'm pretty sure it's really bad. I knew somehow. I said, whether it was the force of the impact or what, I said, it's pretty bad. I said, call my girlfriend, softly, calmly explain to her. I said, because I don't want her freaking out and losing her mind. And then I hung up the phone. And then I made another call to the individual that ran the motor escort, the funeral escort company that I rode for. And I told her. And again, I said, I'm pretty sure it's really bad. And then I hung up the phone. And as soon as I hung up the phone from those two calls I needed to make, the adrenaline stopped. And the pain hit me like a ton of bricks. I have a pretty high tolerance for pain. It was the most excruciating pain I ever felt in my life. Could literally, at one point, I said I had what's called a shattered open pelvis. And for those who don't know what that is, your pelvis breaks apart and it kind of starts to open up like a wishbone. And I still, obviously, I had my uniform on, my duty belt on. I could feel my waist swelling up against my duty belt and pushing against my duty belt. By this time, there were several EMTs around me and several people dealing with me. And I said, please, take my belt off because it was that painful. And I was told, the response was, we can't because it's holding you together. This all happened. It was Friday afternoon at 1:28. Not that I remember the exact time or anything. So I was life flighted to the hospital and then wheeled down the room. And that Friday afternoon, they did an emergency surgery to kind of patch me back together. And then Monday, the doctors came in and did full repair surgeries. And then that's when I was put into a medically induced coma to recover. In that coma, that's when I fell into a septic shock, which if you know what sepsis is, basically your body starts poisoning itself. It cannot get rid of the infections and the toxins and the chemicals that are in your body. My kidneys shut down, and I basically went into organ failure. So they were keeping me alive on dialysis. Your bones produce your blood. Well, your pelvis is your largest bone. It produces 45% of your blood. So my body quit producing enough blood to keep me alive. That was the other thing that was going on. So they had to transfuse me. I believe it was 5 times my body blood volume. So I knew something was bad right from the onset. Then, of course, once I was in a coma, which that's a weird experience in and of itself, I, of course, wasn't there for the rest of it.
David, it's fascinating to me on so many levels. How do you forgive the individual? That's fascinating to me.
How do you forgive the individual? How do you not? She went on with her life, I assume. She had some minor injuries. She wasn't severely injured. So she went on with her life. She will never know whether I forgave her or not. If I don't forgive her, then I consume myself. You know, there's an old saying, people say forgive and forget. Well, no. I forgive you, but I will never forget.
Do you think unforgiveness is much like the septum that was inside you? You talk about your body shutting down and it basically poisoning itself. Is unforgiveness like that in your mind?
Yeah, I try not to get preachy, but whether you're a religious person or whether you're not, or whether you can read all kinds of books on what hate and not forgiving somebody, hate does to your human body. In reality, hate only damages you. It doesn't damage the other person. And there are physical issues with that kind of a mentality that people put themselves through.
There's part of me that if that happened to me, I don't know if I'd ever get on a bike again.
It's a passion. I love everything about it. I was absolutely determined. Now, it took me 18 months to go ride again. It took me 18 months to practice in a parking lot like I had never ridden again and start over. One of the resultant injuries after the fact is my right hand and right arm is 60-70% paralyzed below the elbow. I had what's called a brachial plexus nerve bundle injury, which is the brachial plexus nerve bundle is the spinal cord to your arm, and mine was crushed. So I had to also adapt to a different way of riding. I was bound and determined I was not going to give up riding. I loved it that much. Now, I've always often said, if I'd have been the dummy, if I'd have been the idiot and I'm the one that caused my own, but it's not like I went out there and did something stupid and paid the price for my own sins. Somebody else did this to me. Why would I give up what I absolutely love? Somebody else did it. I said this before the wreck and I've said it ever since. I don't want to die any younger than anybody else does. I would rather die young saying I did than die old saying I wish I would have.
Walk me through the recovery aspect of things. What did that road look like? And did people gather around you and were supportive, or did you notice they were there in the beginning and then not there maybe in the end?
People were very supportive throughout. My close friends were there. My family, my sister made several trips down from Michigan. She still lives in Michigan. At the time, I was a bachelor. My now wife was my girlfriend at the time. So my sisters traveled down here several times, met periodically to handle my affairs, pay my bills, and be in charge of making medical decisions while I was in a coma. She made several trips down here to take care of me. So she was spectacular. My girlfriend at the time, my wife, she would work all day. She would come to the hospital most nights and sit by my bed most nights. Kind of a cute story. If you remember the TV show Big Bang Theory, we enjoyed Big Bang Theory together, and I didn't know it while I was in a coma, or maybe I did, but she would sit next to my bed and sing Soft Kitty to me.
That's why you're better, because she sang Soft Kitty.
At one point, I told you they gathered my family together to say their goodbyes. They said, he's not going to make it through the night. My vital signs were as low as they could go on life support without me crossing over to the other side. The last person to say goodbye was my girlfriend. And the hospital staff said that about an hour or so after she said goodbye and everybody left, my vital signs started going back up. As you already know, she's my wife. So I came out of the coma. I spent another week and a half, almost 2 weeks in the ER, completely immobile, bedridden. I had been given a tracheostomy so that I could breathe while I was in a coma. So I had to learn to breathe again. Believe it or not, your body physically forgets how to breathe when you have a machine doing it for you. You have to learn all over again. The muscles that do that for you also deteriorate. They would take the tracheostomy or whatever it's actually called. They would take it out and they would tell me to breathe. And I'd take 2 breaths and they'd put it back in and I'd be exhausted just from taking 2 breaths. And then they'd come in an hour or so later and we'd do it again and I'd take 3 breaths and 4 breaths. And then eventually I was back to breathing on my own. After I left there, I went to what's called an acute rehab center for 10 days. At that point, I still could not walk. My pelvis wasn't healed enough to bear weight. So we worked on all the other stuff. We continued to work on breathing. We worked on regaining any function that we could in my hand and arm, because initially it was 100% dead. So we worked on that. Then when I went to the nursing home, 8 weeks to the day from the wreck, I went to my follow-up visit with the orthopedic surgeon. And at that point, he gave me permission to start to walk again. Until I could fully walk on my own, I stayed in the nursing home and went to rehab 3 sessions a day, morning, noon, and evening, to walk. And quite literally started out in what most people would think were gymnastics bars, in between these 2 bars, holding myself up with my therapist holding me up. And I'd take 2 steps and then sit back down. And then I'd take 5 or 6 steps. And then eventually I would start walking on my own with them walking beside me. But even at that point, like I said, your body forgets and your muscles deteriorate fairly quickly just from our everyday activity. 50 feet and I'd be exhausted. And then eventually we got to the point where I would walk every hallway of the nursing home and I was fine. And then that's when they finally released me. So I had my sister around me. I had my wife around me, my girlfriend at the time. Believe it or not, there was a defense attorney who I was really good friends with that I went up against several cases on, who started a fund for me. And then a local Irish pub that unfortunately has closed down. People in there, if you've ever been to an Irish pub, you understand what a community those people become inside that pub. They had a fundraiser for me and raised over $2,000 to help me through it. So yeah, I had people rallying around me quite a bit.
I gotta say, this girlfriend of yours, she sounds pretty amazing.
She is. I just say she is. I think we are fated. She went through that with me, and then I went through breast cancer with her, and then she went through prostate cancer with me, and back and forth, back and forth.
You guys are just a team of awesomeness.
My mother always tells me, she says, God gives us trials to bring us closer to him. I say, well, you know what? I'm close enough. Yeah, I don't need any more.
I can smell his perfume on him. The perfume they dumped on him, I can smell that. That's how close I am. I'm blown away by your ability to not quit. And maybe there were moments, you said it, crawling to the bottle and just die. What stopped you from doing that in your mind?
This is why I didn't tell my story for a long time, because they'd say, what you did and what you accomplished is amazing. And I'd go, no, it's not. It's just what I had to do. I had no choice. To me, I had no choice. That's why for a long time, I tried to make it back to the road and tried to make it back to working in the police department. And I did everything I could to get back to the road, because to me, there just wasn't an option. I had to. It was almost like this happened. This is what you do. It was just, I don't know if it's character. I don't know if it's people behind you. I don't know if it's a combination of all kinds of different things, but to me, there was no choice but to recover, but to do what I had to do.
Think about the rehab process. Again, I've never had to experience that. As I said to you in the interim before we started recording, I'm a big sports fan, and I've seen a lot of athletes recover. I think of Alex Smith, who, those that don't know his story, is pretty horrific. Just go look up Alex Smith recovery. You'll see it. It's insane what he went through, and he's talked about his recovery process. Kind of same thing. Learn how to walk again. Learn how to do all the things that we maybe take for granted, breathing even, goodness sakes. All the things. I would imagine, again, that there were moments that you wanted to quit. There were moments that you're like, this is just too hard to get back to even 80% of what your life was.
I had moments where I wanted to quit. I had moments where I thought it was never going to work. For a long time, I believed I'd get my hand back 100%. And I wasn't going to give up on that. And then there were moments where I would wake up with the realization and I would bargain with God and say, look, if you give me my hand back, the standard joke that everybody talks about, if you give me this, I'll do this. I went through all of that. And I went through, trust me, I'm pretty sure I went through depression. We all have troubles in life. Everybody's depressed at some point in their life. And there were moments, I'm really bad about, I don't like to cry in front of people, but you can bet there were days when nobody was around and I was sitting in the dark in my living room. And I just cried. This isn't fair. Why me? I went through all of that. In the morning, you get up and you go, okay, do you want to play why me and cry about it? Or do you want to ride that beautiful bike again? Because you got to remember something. I was on a police bike that I used to do police escorts, which means I still had another motorcycle sitting in my garage staring at me going, come on, you can do it.
You talk about God a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought or maybe allowed yourself to imagine conversation with him face to face, where you could maybe ask that question? He's all powerful. He's all knowing. He knew it was going to happen. He could have stopped it. Why didn't he?
I have thought about having that conversation. Why didn't he? The way I accept what did happen was, people don't know necessarily, but you see it on TV, you see it on the news. You see what law enforcement goes through. I choose to accept that he did that to me. If I'd have continued to be a cop, something worse would have happened to me. He knew that no matter what, unless I was taken out of the game, I wasn't going to leave the game. Choose to accept that maybe down the road, he knew there would have been a bullet in my future. Yes, I would still love to have that conversation with God, but because we can't actually face-to-face have that conversation with God, I choose to accept that he knew that this was a way to avoid something worse.
What do you hope others learn from your story?
Beside the distracted driver, I hope to accomplish, obviously that is primary goal. I did fatality accidents and I saw what irresponsible, bad driving can do to people's lives. And then I experienced it myself. Pay attention to your driving. Obviously, the other thing I hope to achieve with this is if you're dealt a hand like mine, seek people that will help you. Know that there's something else to live for. Know that it's not just over, that God is holding your hand, even though it doesn't seem like it. And trust me, I did my cursing of God as well. I gave him a piece of my mind, I can tell you. Know that no matter how bad it is, and I see this all the time. I think of my partially paralyzed hand, and then I see somebody who doesn't have legs, or I see somebody that lost their hand and arm. And I go, you want to know what? Maybe I don't have it so bad. It could always be worse, but you can always make it better.
I sort of mocked you in the beginning about your Skechers.
Now, you know why?
So tying your shoe is a challenge.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's a fine lace, shoelace, like a dress shoe or something, I can't tie it. My wife has to tie my shoes for me. That sounds silly. If they are large, like boot laces, I can kind of wrap them around my hand and make the loops big enough that I can use my collective hand to tie them. Can't individualize the fingers on my right hand. So I have to adapt to do a lot of things. Yeah, that's why I said I love Skechers, because they have step-ins.
Are you right-hand dominant by nature?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That makes
By
sense.
nature, I'm right-hand dominant. Had to adapt everything to left-hand dominant.
I had a friend do some research and he said, do you know the whole world is right-hand dominant? And I was like, that's not a thing. And he goes, no, think about it, Neil. He goes, think about how many things are not designed for left-handed people. That's not a thing. And then my daughter is left-handed and she's like, Dad, cutting scissors for a non-left-handed person? She's like, you don't realize how tough it is. I was like, I guess not.
Oh, yeah.
She's left-handed, so she knows.
I say it to this point, and it never dawned on me until recently. Take away the smartphones that we have and go back to a traditional camera. Take a picture with a traditional styled camera with your left hand. There is no camera out there that has the buttons and controls on the left-hand side. Not one.
They're all right-handed.
Yeah, they're all right-handed. And the only reason I realize that, believe it or not, yes, you keep asking me why I still ride motorcycles. A friend of mine and I are currently planning a trip in a year and a half, summer of 27, to ship our motorcycles to Fairbanks, Alaska, and ride them all the way to Key West. If you've ever been to Alaska, I've been there. The scenery is, you're not taking pictures of that with an iPhone. You need a good camera. Now, I'm not saying you have to have the multiple lenses, $5,000, $10,000 worth of lenses. Traditional camera with some better zoom, some better optics, you've got to have it for a place like Alaska. So I started researching traditional style cameras to take on the trip. And I'm like, I got to figure out how to use the button.
Again, everything I think in our world is so right-hand driven.
It is.
And that to me is why for years I want to see what it feels like to experience life as someone who's left-handed, to get that different perspective. And I know that sounds crazy to some, but I always grew up as a kid. I wanted to be left-handed because everyone else was right-handed. And I was like, I want to be different. I want to be different.
I'm telling you, being
it's not that exciting, is it?
Being somebody who is right-handed, who is now has to be left-handed, you don't want to do that.
All right, fair enough. I don't want to be left-handed. Dave, I'm curious about this. Do you do speaking engagements? Is there a book on the way? Is there anything in your Dave ecosystem that folks could learn more about or hear more about, or tell me more about that?
I am trying to start doing more speaking engagements. That's part of why I started to engage in this podcast adventure where you and I came together on that Facebook page, sought out how to tell your story, how to start engaging in that. And this is one of the recommended ways. For those that are familiar with the inner workings of Facebook and Meta, I have what's called a professional Facebook page. My story is on there where people can follow me and they can absolutely reach out to me if they would like to do a speaking engagement. I am endeavoring to build a YouTube channel about motorcycling. I know there's a bunch of them out there, but I am endeavoring to build that. Right now, I've just gotten the cameras and started filming, so I anticipate launching it when I've got some backed up episodes, maybe next spring. I want to continue to do these.
Well, Dave, help us with this. We're going to do this thing at the end of our show. We need some silliness, I feel like. We need some levity. First off, again, I just want to say thanks for your courage to come on and share your story. And again, to not blame. It's so easy in our world, I think, to blame what happens to us, to blame the ones that hurt us. It's easy to do that. And I love the fact that you're not wanting to do that. You're not wanting to come on and say, well, she should have, or they should have, or the so-and-sos of the world should have. I love that you're not doing that. So thanks for that.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for having me.
Well, let's do our game together. We call this Heel Hustle. It might be inspired by North Carolina, perhaps. So here we go. Zach's going to tell us about Heel Hustle. Zach, take it away.
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heel Hustle. Today, our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win a prize from our prize closet. Audience, feel free to play at home. Let's put 60 seconds on the clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Dave, who was your celebrity crush growing up?
Growing up, it would have been the girl that played Joe on Facts of Life.
Wow, dating yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
What is your secret talent?
Somewhat secret. I am a fairly good singer. I have sang the national anthem at the Braves game.
Wow. All right. Person you would trade places with for a year.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Anthony Hopkins. He's one of my favorite actors of all time.
Okay. Weirdest job you've ever had? Weirdest job?
Baling hay at a dairy farm. I don't know if that's weird, but
Biggest risk you've ever taken?
biggest risk I've ever. I've pulled a few people out of burning buildings. Is that risky enough?
That's pretty risky. All right. The last question is this. Who needs a hug from you today and why?
Oh, my wife always needs a hug, and she was forced to travel to Arkansas for her job at the last minute. And I'm pretty sure because of what's going on with her job, she needs a hug.
Everyone always needs a hug in my mind. Well, Dave, again, thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate all that you gave and all that you shared. Really appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, that is it. That is all. That is, in fact, our show today. Wow. When's the last time you got in the car, got down the road, and you're like, man, I don't want to listen to that song, and you pick up your phone and you change the song? Anyone? No one? No one's ever done that, I'm sure, right? No one. Okay, how about maybe not change the song, read that text? I mean, most of us nowadays, I feel like, have the Apple Watch or some equivalent to the Apple Watch. We like glance at the wrist. We're like, oh, that's so-and-so. I'll get back to them when I'm done. Oh, I need to respond right now. They're waiting on me. Neil, you don't know how important I am. They need to know right now. Do they, though? I'm guilty of that. I do find myself shamefully admitting now, grabbing my phone from time to time. I need to stop. If anything else, other than this moment to remind me, I'm putting someone else's life in danger. He could have died, you guys. There's no reason he should be sitting here. So maybe that's the question today that I want to ask you. The notification is now here in your mind. How can you change your behavior? How can you course correct it? There's still time. You're still breathing. Let me know how you'll do that this week. You can let me know at opspodcast.com. You can also let me know on the socials at OPS Podcast Show, a little different, on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And of course, don't forget this when we go. So important. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. I want to thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned till next week when, guess what? That's right, we're going to walk in other people's shoes.